Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For What It's Nerd. Today, we are discussing both the Thunderbolts and Tales of the Underworld from Star Wars. And I have to say, it's been a good week for media in with these two. First off, Thunderbolts, really good movie, humorous, but also dealing with depression and loneliness and everything that kind of comes with that in a very well packaged MCU movie that feels like a return to form. And I know we say that a lot with the MCU, and generally I've enjoyed most of the stuff since Endgame, but people do talk about it a lot, and I think it's worth saying that this is higher caliber than a lot of the stuff that has come out post Endgame. This is like next level good. Um, I've enjoyed a lot of the projects that have come prior, but I think it's worth saying that this is better than those. Yelena has a great role in this film. Red Guardian, a great supporting role. You have the other characters. You have John Walker. You have Bucky. You have Ava as Ghost, as well as Valentina, and of course Sentry, the villain, quote unquote, alongside Valentina in this movie. And yeah, I think everyone played their role to perfection. Valentina was just that. Wanted to hate her, you loved to hate her, you enjoyed that. There was a tension between her and Bob. You didn't know if Bob was going to lose control. Was he going to kill her? Was he going to kill one of the team? He didn't, obviously, but it was really interesting to see that dynamic play out and to know that Sentry, of course, from the comics, is this big character, and introducing him and doing it in this kind of very understated way was cool. And the fight scene, not many fight scenes in this movie, by the way, but the fight scene that we have with Sentry is like really good. I very much enjoy when you give characters insurmountable odds, and that's so clearly why they made this team what it is, with like 3 super soldiers and 1 person who can, you know, ghost away, so to speak, and come back. They wanted to create a team that was essentially bound to lose unless they embraced Bob, as they actually do at the end of the movie, and tell him that this isn't the right course. That he can change this if he wants, and that was really cool in its own way. I felt very emotional with some of those scenes. It's nice to see a Marvel movie that isn't just about it's not slop. And I'm not saying that again, I don't think that any Marvel movie has been slop. I don't think the plots have been as tight as they should have been prior, and I think that there's not been as many morals or themes tackled in these movies as of late. This one did. It tackled real themes, real things people go through, and mirroring Bob with Yelena and kind of bringing those events that had happened prior with her into focus through Bob, through the Void, was a really cool way of developing 2 characters for the price of 1, so to speak. Obviously, what is perhaps the most shocking or crazy thing to come out of this movie is the way Valentina spins the Thunderbolts at the end of the movies to actually end up not being the Thunderbolts at all, but the New Avengers. And of course, that's what the asterisk meant on the posters, on the promotional material, that actually she was going to kind of turn around and kind of gotcha and turn them into the New Avengers. So they're an Avengers team now, and I actually kind of like it. You know, I think a lot of people, I thought a lot of people would rail against it, but really, I mean, a lot of these characters have been Avengers adjacent for quite some time. The only one that is like really interesting to me as someone who has kind of been catapulted to Avengers status the most is, of course, Ghost. Not necessarily anything kind of related to the Avengers in the comics apart from being an Iron Man villain. And of course, yeah, Ghost was gender swapped for the movies as well, which actually I think paid off big time. With the character they have there is really interesting to me, and I want to see her more. And the fact that she's kind of going to be like a part of like Doomsday now, right? That's going to be exciting. That's really cool, actually. So seeing those characters again, they did a lot of work to make you like John Walker, even though you still kind of dislike him, which I think was really cool. Having Bucky in a support role, almost like Steve, but not Steve, more like Steve at like later in the movies, is really cool as well. and knowing that they're going to kind of go head to head with another Avengers team, this is the most, like people were saying about how these Avengers movies now aren't actually really Avengers movies because most of the cast aren't Avengers. Well, at least in this one, we're actually going to have, in Doomsday, we're going to have two Avengers teams, so we're closer than we have been before. So I think it's going to be a really cool movie, despite the fact that it will nostalgia bait, it will be doing kind of CGI and big fights, and but I think Doomsday could be a really fun movie now, knowing what we've got with this, knowing that the X-Men are going to be part of it. What does this all mean? How is it all going to come together in a way that's really like fulfilling? As well, of course, in that post-credits scene, we see the new Avengers and finding out about an extra-dimensional ship, and it is the Fantastic Four. Now, people have commented on that and discussed how it kind of ruins the Fantastic Four movie. I think we already kind of knew that was going to happen. At least, like, maybe for the general audience, that's a little spoilery. I get it. But I think anyone who kind of has been keeping up with the MCU knew that when the Doomsday cast was revealed, there was members of the Fantastic Four on there. They knew that they were going to be in Doomsday, and Doomsday was obviously going to be connected somehow to the multiverse or otherwise on main Earth. And we know or can tell that the Fantastic Four movie is not set in the same universe as the main MCU. And so it was kind of bound to happen that they would cross over either by way of the multiverse in the movie or before the movie. And of course, that's what's happened, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how. That's what I think people need to remember. Like, to be cliche, sometimes it's the journey, not the destination. And I think we know that the Fantastic Four show up, but do they save their Earth? Do they lose their Earth? Is Galactus somehow a precursor to Doom? Is Galactus actually coming, and that's part of the problem for Doomsday? Does Doomsday start off with Galactus trying to devour it? Like, you don't know what's going to happen, right? Galactus, remember, was part of the Secret Wars storyline, the original Secret Wars storyline in the comics. I don't remember if he was part of the second one, but he was there. He was a big part of it, and basically was trying to devour the world, Battle World, which was like the conglomerate. Oh, that's a bad word. Basically combination of like loads of different worlds and places and times and stuff like that. So like, Galactus could come through as well. Galactus could be part of this whole thing. Maybe that's why they're using him for this first Fantastic Four movie, because it seems pretty big out the gate to use, again, to say it like a third time in like 30 seconds, Galactus. But maybe that's why. Maybe it's because they're trying to put all these pieces on the board that were in that movie, So he's hoping on that. That would be cool. But yeah, I think it was a very good movie. I think it was paced well. I think it has a clear structure. It clearly has characters dealing with their past, and it successfully transitioned some of these characters from background characters to foreground characters. Pretty much all the team, in fact. And that's really exciting. I don't know what else to say. I don't think there's very few things wrong with this movie. If anything, I think I could have done with more time with the characters. I wanted a little bit more. I think 15 more minutes on the movie. Someone had said this on Twitter, actually, and so I'm kind of echo chambering a little bit, but 15 more minutes on the movie where you saw kind of the others deal with the effects of the void would have been cool. I think there was probably a point where this was going to happen. It seemed like that was something that we're trying to do, if I remember seeing comments from the director as well. But like, you get to have Yelena going through her stuff. I'd like to have seen Ghost go through something, Alexei, Red Guardian, of course. John, I'd have liked to have seen a little bit more of his story started in those. Like, I feel like you got a really understanding of where he was going as a character and what had happened to him. And then that kind of, you kind of almost got like the Ant-Man story there a little bit, but like in reverse, right? He's not paying attention to his child, and so he loses his child. It's kind of the opposite of what Ant-Man was doing. But to the same end, right? And so I kind of think it would have been nice to see that played out a little bit more nearer the end. Even if it was like because they were going through all those different rooms, even if it wasn't like necessarily that you had full dedicated scenes, but as they were going through, there was a fight with like something from John's past, there was a fight with something from Bucky's past. Like, even if you had a moment where, and I think this could have been a really cool fight sequence, where you have the team fighting like Winter Soldier at his peak, right? That would have been cool. Or like if you had a moment, I think they'd suggested this at some point, like Melina shows up from Black Widow as well, and she tries to kind of like downtrod Alexei, you know, probably the one person who could do that. So like there's loads of different things that I think could have worked and added to that experience of the Void. I think the Void was kind of over a little bit too quickly for me. That's maybe my one criticism. So yeah, basically the movie is good. I wanted more. That's my criticism. But yeah, very fun movie, very good movie. Gets me excited for things to come. Fantastic Four, of course, in a few months. As well as, of course, Doomsday down the line, which is now filming, which is interesting because that's where that scene at the end of the movie came from. The post-credit scene was filmed apparently about a month ago, and was, of course, put in at the end of the movie from the set of Doomsday. So that's exciting. But yeah, so that is my thoughts on Thunderbolts. Let's move on to Tales of the Underworld. And of course, we'll split this down the middle. We'll talk about the Asajj Ventress episodes first, and then the Cad Bane episodes afterwards. And I have to say, what I think is really great is the way they kind of gave Asajj a little bit more to her backstory. And maybe not backstory, motivations, I think is probably the better word. Maybe a bit of both. So, of course, this deals with the fallout of the Dark Disciple book. Now, first off, I want to say that I actually really congratulate Dave Filoni on this one, because usually Dave changes things in a way, and technically he's changed the end of the book, but he changes things in a way that doesn't complement the book. This, I feel, actually really does. That first scene where you get to learn that Quinlan Vos has these emotions for Asajj, he's saying it even in front of Obi-Wan. Like, he's not ashamed of it. He knows what it was. He knows that it's over now. And then, as well as that, knowing that Asajj essentially reciprocates those feelings, even though she doesn't say it, is really strong as a character motivation. She's never really had that in her life. She's never been that character. So to see her kind of open up like that is really quite cool. And then to kind of know that she's losing that, and in fact, the journey that she goes on throughout the 3 episodes is trying to somewhat gain that back through Lyko, the Jedi Padawan she's helping, only to then dismiss it at the last moment, knowing that it can't be anymore, is really tragic, but in like a really cathartic, interesting way. Sometimes things change, and sometimes people change, and sometimes it's over. And I thought that was a really interesting arc for Asajj to go on, and for her to accept it as well. You know, things have happened to Asajj in the past as a character where she's railed against people because of the things like this. She's actually she's been very resentful when bad things have happened to her. In this instance, she isn't, and in fact, she opens up to someone. She basically gains a Padawan in a way, or a mentee, and they stick together. And I want to know more about them. I want to know, like, did they stick together throughout? What happened to that guy? Where were they? Like, I want to know what happened to them. And I think possibly we'll probably get some more answers for that down the line. I think you're going to see Asajj show up again. I think you probably see Lyko show up again at some point. But it was really cool. It was actually a really good inversion of the trope that you find a lot in media these days, which is the adoptive kind of dad. You know, Mandalorian and Grogu. You know, Rex, not Rex. Hunter and Omega. You know, that seems to happen a lot. Like those pairings, like Kanan and like Ezra to a degree. You know, it seems to always happen that you've got this kind of adoptive dad. It's nice to see an adoptive mother. Maybe not so much mothering figure, because I don't think Asajj is kind of that character. But like, big sister kind of vibe type thing, like just generally like a female mentor. And I was actually commenting on this last night. I think it's something that is very ill capitalized upon, but I think it worked as well in Dune because you have Paul and his mother, and they're the main characters, so to speak, of the movies, right? Um, and it's kind of interesting to see something similar to that in Star Wars, and it's with Asajj of all people as well. Really cool, really like that, and I would love to see more of that pairing. I like that they dealt with kind of themes of like the separatists and like how things have changed, and I like that Asajj is the person who kind of really does say this is over. This is not like let's move on. Let's try a different solution. And I think it's such a great way of building out a character. She's been such a strong part of the animation side of Star Wars for a long time now. And I actually likened it when I was watching it. I thought about Loki in Marvel and the fact that like Loki was a villain and a very staunch villain for quite some time, and over time he earned his redemption. He earned his becoming not that guy anymore. And I think Asajj has gone on a very similar path, and it's really nice to see that you can have these arcs that span years now. Like I think that's the thing, right? When a lot of places like, and kind of going back to Thunderbolts as well, I guess a bit, when you have these characters who show up maybe once and then they show up again down the line and they kind of have totally changed, not great, right? But when you've got time to sit with these characters and see them evolve and see them change, that's cool. That's interesting. I think that's why a lot of people were frustrated with the change for Luke in The Last Jedi. It felt very swift. It was like he senses Kylo as evil and goes to, like, obviously he isn't going to kill him, but thinks about it for 2 seconds. How's he got to that point? Has Luke been betrayed a lot? Is he being influenced in some way? Like, is Kylo being influenced in some, like, there would have been better ways to kind of approach that idea, right? We know Anakin had issues with judgment. The fact that Luke could is not out of the realms of possibility. It's just, I think there needs to be a better explanation of why Luke's got into this kind of mistrusting stage in his life. Is he somehow dealing with other partisan Jedi parties? Have dark Jedi kind of become, so there would have been things that could have, done that. And so I think Asajj having that, like, this arc to go on and to see how she changes because of it was very cool, and I would love to see more. So that's that. On to Cad Bane, which you think the Asajj Ventress episodes were good. The Cad Bane episodes are great. And I didn't expect that. I thought I'd be more of the Asajj episodes than the Cad Bane episodes. But, right, like, wow, I don't even know where to start. The kind of really fleshing out Cad Bane's early years is like, this is like the same as when they dropped Sheev Palpatine's backstory to me. This is like that. Like this, like when they even said the name Sheev, that was like world changing for Star Wars. And we got a similar thing here. Cad Bane having like a name beforehand, Colby, and like he had a whole life. He had like a romantic interest. He had this kind of essentially like a brother figure. He had, by the end of the arc, a child. He has a child. There's a child of Cad Bane out there somewhere. Not necessarily being seen as a child of Cad Bane, but biologically very much true. And I just thought, wow, the way they've done this, the way they've kind of set him on this path of like being very much a sort of, yes, delinquent, but relatively innocent child into this world of criminal intrigue and really sort of mid-tier crime, not like, not what he ends up being. And then kind of seeing him go even further than that is fascinating. But what I think is the most fascinating thing for his character here is if you think about how many plot lines in the Clone Wars and like Bad Batch Cad Bane is in, and he is sort of, he's kidnapped children. He has like kidnapped Omega as well. Like he's done a lot of that, right? He's done a lot of these kind of unscrupulous jobs that really put innocence at risk. And to know that the origin of him is that he essentially killed what was his son's actual father figure because he wasn't there, because he was in prison, because he had to fulfill this vendetta. He couldn't let it go. It's actually really powerful because it says that he just so cut ties with what his life could have been and what his life still is to a degree. He's so dissociated from that he doesn't care about putting other children in danger, even after basically ruining the life of his biological son. Which I think is really strong storytelling. It doesn't obviously come across. It's not there on the page, but it's there. You know, even to the point where he takes Boba under his tutelage, and at the end, what does he do? He tries to, that's the kind of last kind of mistake of Cad Bane, so to speak. He tries to kill his somewhat mentee son-esque figure, right? Like he kind of tries to look after Boba, and then he fails at that, and later on he decides he's going to go try and kill this kid he looked after when he was younger. So, like, Cad Bane is basically the lowest of the low, but he got there by way of feeling betrayed, by way of getting so wrapped up in this world he was part of. And I think that's a really strong storytelling and really visually stunning episodes. And also, this one is a really cool one for the lore nuts. I'm pretty sure this is set on Duro. I'm assuming so. He's a Duros, so it makes sense. But that means, like, I don't think we've ever seen Duro on screen. And that's crazy because it's like one of the founding members of the Republic in the old canon. I don't know if that's necessarily the case in the new one, but like to see Duro as well was like really cool. It was like, it's like seeing like when we first saw Alderaan, or we first saw Kashyyyk, or we first saw, like, all those things, like when you first see Corellia. Oh, like, it's so exciting. So in that way, I really loved the episode too. But yeah, it was really fun to kind of see the origin of Cad Bane. One thing I will say, and it's kind of something that I really hate about modern Star Wars. Now, I know we have Luke Skywalker, I know we have Ben Kenobi, but like, I really do hate like real life names, like normal names, being too common in Star Wars, and I feel like it's becoming more and more common. It's really starting to annoy me. Cad Bane's kid being called Isaac was very annoying to me, and I'm sorry, it's just the way I feel. Seeing normal names in Star Wars takes me out of Star Wars to such a big degree. They need to stop it. I don't want to see John Star Wars anytime soon. That's like one of my big criticisms of Star Wars under Disney. Like, I will say that I don't mind a lot of Disney Star Wars. I think generally it's okay to good. Some is bad, yeah, but that's just part of the course. But the naming thing, stop it, Disney, stop it, Lucasfilm, stop it, Star Wars. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there on that note. But thank you guys for watching / listening as always. And yeah, we shall see you guys soon for more. I don't know what's next. I don't know what's coming up, but I'm sure we'll talk about it. Until then, thanks, guys. I'll see you later.